Hello and welcome to this week's episode of For the Love of Chiropractic, 3 Keys of My Success. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman, and on this week's show, I get to speak to another amazing chiropractor, and here's who he is.
Hello, I'm Dr. Laurence Adams from Sonoma, California. I've been in practice for 30 years. I currently serve on the Board of Chiropractic Examiners. I'm the chairman of the Board of Chiropractic Examiners of California. There are 3 doctors in our office. We see between 500 and 600 visits a week. Our focus is on chiropractic neurology. I'm board certified in chiropractic neurology. And we focus on helping the brain connect to the body to the brain, and we do rehabilitative aspects as well. I am a member of the original Chiropractic Knights of the Round Table that was formed by Chuck Gibson back in 1967. And I am a father, husband, and I have 3 children. And I'm going to be a grandfather in October of this year. I'm excited to be with you.
Hello and welcome to Secrets of My Success, part of For the Love of Chiropractic podcast series. On each episode, I'll be interviewing one highly successful doctor or business person, asking them what are their 3 keys of success or secrets they've used to make themselves so highly successful. So let's get started with today's show. So I have with me on the phone today Dr. Larry Adams. Larry, are you there?
I am here. Great to be with you.
Oh my God, it's so good to have you on the phone and get to chat with you. Now, you and I have chatted a couple times, and I know you mentioned this in the intro, but tell me again, how many years have you been in practice?
It's my 30th year of practice this year.
That's awesome. And remind me, what school did you go to?
I went to Life Chiropractic College West.
Life West. Awesome. So when? So 30 years ago, what year did you graduate?
I graduated in 1996.
96. I guess you're just after one of the guests we had a few weeks ago, Dr. Jeff Wallace. Okay, so now let's turn the clock back. Before you went to chiropractic school, what was your path? How and when did you decide to become a chiropractor?
Well, I grew up in a chiropractic home. My father is a chiropractor, He passed last year, Dr. James Adams. And I had 2 uncles, my Uncle Larry, who I'm named after, and my Uncle Jerry, who I'm also named after, were chiropractors. So I come from a chiropractic family. Several family members are chiropractors, including my brother and cousins. But the main thing for me was when I was about 5 years old. I thought I'd be cute. I walked in and asked my dad to crack my neck, thinking that might be comical, which it wasn't. He happened to be shaving at the time, so forgive me, Father, but he was buck naked, and he turned around and he picked me up, to eye level, and kind of shook me a little bit and said, "Larry, I don't crack necks. I adjust, and if you would like an adjustment, I would be happy to adjust you." And that was the first time in my life when I realized that what my dad did, he took very serious. Mm-hmm. And I've never forgotten that experience. And this is adjusted all my life.
Right. This is not a parlor trick. It's not something you do, at a cocktail party or when you're having a couple of beers with your buddies. This is serious. And I love the way that your dad explained that to you at such a young age in a loving way.
Yeah, and he taught me. He was my mentor and my guide in so many ways. I got to practice with him for 27 years at the same end of the building, and we would high five each other and cross paths as we were passing in the hallways, going to our respective rooms to adjust our patients, and just wonderful, wonderful 27 years. And he retired in 2020 when COVID hit, and but those were the most wonderful 27 years of my life practicing side by side with him.
That's awesome. Now, you also told me another story while you were in chiropractic school, I believe.
Yes. Well, I had been adjusted all my life, and I felt the benefits of chiropractic, but I never had one of those, those miraculous experiences with chiropractic, like you hear people talk about, which changed their life. For me, that moment came when I was in chiropractic school. I ended up getting cancer, and had to take about a 6-month hiatus from chiropractic school. And unfortunately, my cancer, I ended up having to do chemotherapy, which, I hated to do, but at the time it was the alternative I was faced with relative to, living or dying. And I remember a particular afternoon where I was after my 3rd round of chemotherapy, and I was done. Emotionally, physically, mentally, I was done. And I was at the office to get adjusted. I always got adjusted every week. And my father came in and, checked me and then set me up on my side to do a toggle recoil atlas adjustment. And I was laying there and I was just, everything was gray. Everything in my vision, in my life, just felt gray and dark. And I remember him setting my atlas, and I was on my side, and I opened my eyes, and in the adjusting room is a window that looks out into a beautiful garden. If anyone's ever been to our office, they know we have a beautiful front of our office, beautiful garden, flowers. And I opened my eyes, and everything was colored. It was like coming out of, the Wizard of Oz, when everything's black and white and it goes into, Technicolor. It was just like that. And I remember thinking, this is the real deal. And that experience for me, whenever I have patients that come in and they're talking about how, the gray and the dark and the no colors in their vision, and that how their adjustments restore that, I understand it now. Like never before. So
it's so much more than just removing tension on a spinal nerve as it exits the intervertebral foramina. Like, no, that's not what we're talking about. Yes, that's what we're talking about, but no, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a higher calling. It's a higher purpose.
Oh yeah. Those are afferents and efferents, and yeah, you clear it out. And I love that you had that experience, because again, when you get a great adjustment, when the body needs that, and yeah, whether it's your vision brightens, your sounds are clearer, and it has nothing to do with the spinal nerve, so to speak. It's removing the subluxation complex. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's turning on the brain.
Yeah, exactly. You're turning it all on. So I love that story. So you graduated from Life West about 30 years ago. And then what happened when you got out of school? You opened up a practice? You went right in with your dad? What did that look like?
I went right in. I did my preceptor. I finished my requirements at chiropractic school clinic about 6 months early. So I was able to start practicing with my father in January of 96.
Nice.
And just was rolling from right then and there. I just started rolling. I was knocking doors. I was doing spinal screenings. I was, I had to compete with my brother and my father, who were already in practice, and another associate was in the office. So I had to go out there and hit the pavement and knock doors and do what you got to do to, do speaking engagements in the community, go to the Kiwanis, go to the Rotary, go to the women's clubs, the groups, the Boys and Girls Club. I was doing everything I could to get my name out there and tell everybody I was the new and improved version.
Exactly. So now I got to ask you a question that I don't ask most people. With the things you just listed, now that was 30 years ago. Frankly, that was in a different century. Do those things still work today? Is that what you would tell a young doc to do?
I found those to be effective, and I still think they're effective today. Anytime you can get out, get yourself in front of people and show that you are truly an expert in your field, and you articulate that, people will come to you. I believe that where energy and focus are, the universe flows back to that. And in my opinion, I'm still public speaking. I'm still getting out there in my community because I find it to be valuable. It's invigorating for me. It keeps me, spizzed up and excited, but it also gets me in front of people who are going to be hearing stuff that they've not heard before. So absolutely, it still works. There's the social media game today is a game changer for so many people because people are there. But I still think getting out there knee to knee, nose to nose, face to face with people is still valuable.
I couldn't agree with you more. And that's why I had to ask the question. The way that you said it, I could hear the passion in your voice. When you speak to somebody, you look them in the eye, you shake their hand, they tell you something about their health, you tell them how you help people, and you invite them to come in and see you in your office, they're coming. It's old school, but man, it works.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, every time someone goes to lunch, leave your card, ask them how they're doing, how they doing on your waiters and your waitresses, they're on their feet all day. They're lifting and they're pushing. That's a great opportunity to talk to somebody. How many people ask their waiter or waitress, how's your back? How's your neck? How's your body? How's your function?
No, absolutely. I've spoken to so many doctors who are afraid to do that. And for those docs, I say to them, if you're afraid to do that, I get that. But you can say to anybody, I don't know if you need a chiropractor, but I think everybody should know one. Hi, I'm Dr. Robert Freeman. My office is across the street. If I could be of help to you, I love helping people with things like neck pains, headaches, and back pain, anything that has to do with any type of pain and overall health. I hope you'll give me a call.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, very non-confrontational, and anybody can do that. Your approach I love because it's more straightforward. Hey, how's your back? I mean, you're asking about things that we really care about. But okay, well, we got totally sidebarred, so I apologize.
It's all right.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. So I want to jump back into your office now because it's 3 docs and you're seeing hundreds of visits a week, which is absolutely fantastic. You had mentioned the age of the oldest doc. You mind repeating that?
Well, Dr. Bliss is a longtime friend of our family's, and he's 85, and he's slowing down, and he sees between 10 and 15 people a week. These are people that have been with him for years, but he wants to keep his hands in it, and
exactly.
He's a grandfather, and he's got passion. He's got the philosophy, he's got the focus, and he's rolling. He wants to keep having a purpose for every day. And so his passion and his philosophy and his desire is there.
So I was about to ask you, to tell me what makes your practice unique, but you've already started to tell me that. So you said it's 3 docs, a couple hundred visits a week, 500 to 600 visits a week. And one of them is in his 80s. Tell me the other things that makes your practice unique. What makes it so special?
Well, I'm a board certified in chiropractic neurology, so that's really unique. There's not very many of us. We had hoped, obviously, with Dr. Carrick's work from way back when, that there'd be more people excited about it. And I, have worked with the board over the years, but there's just it's a very arduous postdoctorate degree to get, and so a lot of people don't want to take that kind of time. But I did, and passed that in 1999, and have been practicing that way ever since. I got into practice because my father was a diplomate in neurology. So that's our focus of our practice, is really on brain-based chiropractic. Remove the nerve interference so that the brain can function uninterfered with, and that the feed forward and feedback loops that are in the brain and the body, those afferents and efferents that you were talking about earlier, can maximize their potential. That's what it's all about, is to be the most free of interference and the most exceptional individual human being you can be. And that's much better accomplished when you're free of interference.
Absolutely.
In all aspects, whether it's toxic, nerve interference, emotional interference, physical interference, whatever the case might be.
I love the way you just said that. So, yeah, that's so much more eloquent than the way that I've said it to patients over years. I simply ask them, well, how close to 100% do you want to be? But the way you said it is just beautiful. I love that. I may steal that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Steal away.
So I want to jump into the real focus of our interview. So you've been highly successful in practice for decades now. I want to ask you specifically what you think your 3 keys of success are that you want to share.
Well, that's very easy. Actually, the number one key to success, in my opinion, is you have to have complete and total passion for what you're doing. In chiropractic, that's the passion really comes from the philosophy, the understanding that we are self-healing, self-regulating organisms that have the potential to do amazing, amazing things. And that if we focus on, clearing interference, that anybody that comes into our sphere of influence is going to be better for it. Whether they get the result that they want, right? That's what we always hope for, is that the patient comes in, gets what they want, and gets the result they want. But you have to know that regardless of whether they achieve that total release or relief of what they want, you have to know that they're better off because they've been in your care, whether you get them for one visit or for hundreds of visits, like I've been privileged to have with some of my patients, literally hundreds of visits over 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to have that passion. You got to have that philosophy that what you're doing is making a difference. The second thing I would say is that you got to have focus. You got to have a totally made up mind. And you got to, when you walk into that room, as Parker used to say, that faith, confidence, and belief that what you're going to do is going to impact that person that day in that moment. And you got to be present time conscious. You got to be 100% in that room with that person at that moment, delivering every intent, every focus, every passion that you have. And you will make a change. And the third thing is, of course, key to success is results, right? You got to get results. And some of those results are what they want. Some of them may be what you want, but results are always going to be there. The minute you lay your hands on somebody, you change their brain.
Mm-hmm.
And if you lay your hands on somebody in such a way that has that passion, that intent, that focus to make that change, in my opinion, you are going to be successful and people will seek you out.
So I love everything you've just said. I mean, passion, focus, and results. How did you develop this? Because clearly you have those things at an incredibly high level. I respect it. I admire it. I honor it. How'd you get that?
Well, I think part of it was, a lot of it came from my father, the home that I was raised in. I mean, I grew up with 6 siblings. So we had to scrap, we were fighters. My dad was a fighter. So we were taught from the very beginning. I mean, my dad was a highly successful chiropractor, but he never gave us anything. Mm-hmm. We had to work for it. It wasn't like we got an allowance for this. It was like, oh, you want an allowance? Well, I'll tell you what, I got a car you need to wash. I got shirts that need to be ironed. I got shoes that need to be shined. I got, there was always, we were always involved in sports. And so we were competitive. Mm-hmm. And so when you have a competition, in your life, you learn to have, the focus on in sports, sports are results oriented. I mean, I know these days, you get participation awards for everything, but back when I was a kid, it was like, you know what? You didn't, you got ribbons, I think, down to 3rd place in swimming. So, you were either in the top 3 and you got a ribbon, or, you got a pat on the back, attaboy. So I was taught from the earliest age, you have to set goals and you've got to achieve them and you got to focus on that.
I love that. Yeah. And I know I keep saying this, I couldn't agree more. So I want to pivot back to something that we briefly talked about towards the beginning of the interview, but I want to ask the question to be point blank. In your opinion, and again, you serve on the state licensing board in California. In fact, you're the president. So is it possible in today's world for a new doc right out of school, or someone who's sitting in practice who hasn't found success yet, is it still possible today to become wildly successful?
Absolutely. I mean, 100%. It's all a mindset. It's a mindset. Information is out there for everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody has the same opportunity to be successful. You just have to go out and get it, and you have to be focused. In my opinion, if you have the inkling to shift your paradigm in your mind to a success orientation, and you're willing to get out there and confront, because the reality is that you don't have the insurance that that chiropractors in California had, 35, 40 years ago.
Sure.
When my father was first in practice. My father's first practice, there was no insurance. Then there was a time there was a lot of insurance, and then insurance has gone away. So, my father was successful before, during, and after. And I came in when insurance was on its way out. So 85% of our practice is cash.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of personal injury. We don't do hardly any workers' comp anymore. And we see Medicare patients and not that many. So we're primarily a cash practice. So you've got to get out there and be able to confront. And that's what it's going to take. Confront and have passion. I'm not saying confront like be argumentative. I'm saying confront like I mean to get out there and be willing to tell the story and to educate people about what chiropractic is doing. We've got more research, more understanding than we've ever had. Heidi Havoc and many of these researchers that are shouting from the rooftops what is going on with the brain and what's happening.
Yeah.
Every time you lay your hands on somebody, you just have to get it out there. Think about this. We've got over 7 billion people on this planet. And as far as I know, every single one of them has a spine.
Yeah.
And that means the pool of resources for us, for our craft is pretty much limitless because unfortunately, statistically, chiropractic chiropractors are in retreat right now. We are losing. We are going down in our numbers.
Yes.
Of who's graduating. So the pool is only getting bigger for those of us that are out there that are willing to put on our armor, pull our sword out, and go to work.
Right.
And if we don't fight for it, guess what? They're going to take it from us because the facts are the facts.
Right. The world is screaming that they need us. But they're not going to beat a path to your door. You have to open up the door, go outside, and say, "I am here, and I'm here to help you."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I do believe that when the universe abhors a vacuum, right?
Yep.
You've heard that term. So when you split, it's like splitting an atom. When you split, energy is going to flow in there. When you split that seam open, it's going to fill. So I think there will be, for lack of a better term, using your term, when you do that, there will be people beating a path to your door because you've opened it. They won't understand it. It's almost like, the Field of Dreams movie. They will come. They won't understand why. They're just going to decide one day, I think I need to look into chiropractic. And you're going to be there because you prepared yourself for it. Success is when preparation meets opportunity, right?
Exactly.
When you're prepared and the opportunity comes, you can seize that. That's success.
Yep.
When you're not prepared and you're not open to it, guess what? No one's beating the path to your door. But I've been so richly blessed from this profession that we call chiropractic, really the calling that we call chiropractic. Because I feel like I've put my heart and soul into it. And I've been richly, not only financially rewarded, but in so many ways other than that. My family's been blessed by it. And families have been blessed by it that have received chiropractic care. And every day we get to do this. What an honor.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And what you just said rolls into my very next question. And time, unfortunately, is starting to run out on us. But I want to ask you, how do you define business success?
Well, that's a tough one because some people want to attach monetary to it. For me, I think business success is partly monetary, but more for me, it's the richness that I get. It's been said that if you love what you do, you don't work a day. And there are parts of chiropractic, that can be annoying, the paperwork side of stuff and all that. But I would say, by and large, I haven't worked a day in my life from that regard because I love it so much. And so business success, obviously, we can attach numbers to that, and can you pay your bills and can you enjoy the finer things in life, which I do. And I think, we should enjoy the fruits of our labor. But success for me is that I lay my head down on my pillow every night and feel almost like I want to pinch myself, like, really, what a life, what a blessing.
Well, okay, so now you just took my next question. which is how do you define personal success?
Right there. Personal success for me is not about necessarily the practice of chiropractic. My personal success is tied to my relationship with God, with my relationship with my family, and then chiropractic. And chiropractic and God and family are all intertwined because they're the purpose, right? Why do I work? Why do I work so hard? Why do I focus on that? Because I want to provide for my family so I can enjoy time with my family, and I can also serve in the kingdom.
So let me ask you one final question as our time is starting to run out. If a doc has listened to this and gone, man, okay, you know what? This guy has turned my brain on. He's an amazing chiropractor. He's changed my life without even laying his hands on me, just by hearing his words. To that doctor, what do you want to say is their first step? What's the first thing they need to do right now?
Well, I would have them check their passion, check their philosophy, and check their purpose. Why are they doing what they're doing? If their focus is not on relieving suffering to humankind and to making everybody they come in contact with reach a higher potential, then they're off base, and I think they're going to struggle. But if they get that mindset, those other things will fall in line and they will be successful.
Wow. Dr. Larry Adams, I can't thank you enough for taking the time, sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience. This has been absolutely fantastic. And again, I want to thank you.
Thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure, and thought of some things I haven't thought of or remembered in a while, and it's been a pleasure.
All right. And that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.